Hi again, welcome back. This is Shawn from 3M, and today I'm going to talk about part 2 of our 3-part series on steel panel replacement. What I'm going to discuss today is how to remove the welds, remove the outer panel, and prep the inner and outer panels for adhesive and welding. Okay, the next step in the panel removal process is cutting and removing the spot welds. Now I'm going to grind those spot welds out with an 80 grit belt on a file belt sander. Now the trick here is that we want to cut through the top layer, but we don't want to damage the inner reinforcement. When we take the panel off, we don't want to see any gouges or grooves on that inner panel. So it's a little bit tricky, and you should first try a test weld where you cut through it and see how deep you went and separate it with a seam buster and look to make sure you have a weld nugget left. Okay, before the next step, I just want to talk about how we remove that outer panel a little bit. So I used the file belt sander with an 80 grit belt, but I was being very careful to not cut all the way through down into the bottom panel. We want to avoid causing any divots or low spots at those welds. So you can see on these welds here, there's all still metal left over. So there's a little bit of that weld nugget remaining on there instead of a divot or a low spot. So it's really important that we do that. Otherwise we damage that inner reinforcement and it can cause an unsafe condition. It just won't have the strength it once had. So we're very careful, and really in theory what we're trying to do is grind through the top layer, or actually not even all the way through the top layer, but make it paper thin and then finish it off with our panel separator. So that's going to leave that nugget behind, which is what we're looking for. Now, to continue on, what I'm going to do is hit each one of these spots where there is still metal left over and take that nugget down so it's flush. And then I'll come back with a Scotch-Brite belt and clean the remaining flange off with the Scotch-Brite belt. We're removing all the coatings, any corrosion you might find in there, any adhesive you might find in there. We're going to clean all that off to have bare metal to prep for adhesives. So that's what we're going to do along both sides. And then after that, we're just going to clean this panel up really well with some cleaners, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Okay, as you can see, I stripped all the coatings off of this flange here. And you may have noticed up in this area here on this part, which is a grayer color, this is a hot stamp part, and that coating was much tougher to get off. So that might be somewhere where you might want to try something like a clean and strip wheel. That's just a little bit more aggressive to take that off quicker. It was much easier than down here on the actual E-coat, where it was not quite as difficult to get off as this. So that's one thing to think about. The next step we're going to take is we're going to actually clean these surfaces with a cleaner. So starting with a waterborne cleaner, then a solvent compliant cleaner. Get them nice and clean for the adhesive, and then we'll move on to the next step. So that's the final step of this process. Make sure you join us for part 3 of the 3-part series on steel panel replacement, and we'll see you next time.
If you liked what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video. If you have questions or have ideas for future topics, leave us a comment down below. If you want more content like this, be sure to check us out at the 3M Collision Repair Academy. The link for that is in the description below. Thank you for watching. See you next time.